welcome to Daily Talk, Researcher 135's Community Call with your host, Rich Bernardo. Tonight, I'm looking forward to a repeat guest who's been on the show many, many times. He's calling back in tonight, and we're going to be discussing the dire state of affairs that exists in the world right now with Jong Un and the North Korean country rattling his saber, doing nuclear missile tests, and threatening the United States. And I'm sure all of you are keeping up with it. Things are very tense at this moment. In many ways, we hover very, very, very close to the outbreak of World War III, depending upon just how far this dictator in North Korea will go. We have, of course, as president now, Donald Trump, and he is prepared for whatever threat North Korea poses. And I want to welcome Dan Patrick to the show in Tampa, Florida. Good evening, Dan.
Good evening, Rich. It's been a while. Good to be back.
It's been welcome back. I look forward to having you many, many more times. So, Dan, tell me what your assessment is of the situation now with North Korea.
Well, you know, I was reading more up on it. Actually, a lot of events have happened in the last couple of days.
Yes.
There was a failed missile test.
Yes, sir. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And the United States has set up the THAAD missile defense system in South Korea, and we have, I think, a nuclear sub and a warship right off the coast of the peninsula. And Donald Trump has been talking to the leaders of Japan, China, and South Korea, because any kind of conflict in the area is going to seriously impact those three countries the most. But I think we're at one of the most serious junctures of nuclear nuclear catastrophe since the Cuban Missile Crisis.
Absolutely.
That John F. Kennedy had to face, and that's going on over 50 years, close to 60 years. And it's a very serious issue. It's almost like the United States can allow him. He's 33 years old, Jong Un, or whatever his name is. He's 33 years old. Donald Trump made a good statement the other day. He said, he took over the regime at 27 because that had to be hard. He's giving him the benefit of the doubt of being immature and not very savvy in world politics. But at the same time, North Korea is a very strange, isolated country with a lot of customs, unusual customs and behaviors. And it kind of reminds me in a lot of ways of the Egyptian kings. Like when one would die, it didn't matter how old the son was that was going to take over. They have history. I think they have recorded kings from the Egyptian days of 12 and 14 years old, simply because he was the heir, next in line.
Yeah, one of the classic examples is Tutankhamun, of course, the boy king.
Exactly. And this kind of reminds this Jong Un, he wasn't ready. He's not ready. He wasn't ready. He's recently had I believe he's had his uncle killed, or his half-brother killed. His uncle was thrown to dogs and bitten to pieces. I understand he doesn't trust anybody, even in his family. So there's no reason for me to think that he trusts anybody on the world theater.
Dan Patrick, I'd like to take a moment to welcome Northeast Texas to the call. Good evening, Northeast Texas.
How are you?
Doing great. How are you this evening?
All right. Just watching it storm.
Fantastic. We're glad to have you here. Weigh in anytime you want to. Dan, this is a good friend of mine, Debbie, and she's on the show tonight to pitch in her opinion and ask a comment or a question. We are discussing the world situation with North Korea, and, with that dictator over there rattling his saber, and how Trump will deal with it. So, Dan, go ahead and tell us more about what you've discovered in the past few days.
Well, yeah. Well, the United States is trying to come to a diplomatic resolution, and Trump has opened the door for that. But on the other end, the dictator over there, the young man, he's not really balanced, stable, or mentally stable, and they don't feel that he has the ability to negotiate and in the kind of way that other leaders, more mature leaders, do. And but Donald Trump has made a statement that there's the possibility of very, very severe military conflict in the region. And this causes a lot of problems for everybody. And this includes China, South Korea, Japan especially. The Russians and China have made a statement that military actions by the United States would be unacceptable, but at the same time, they're very nervous too. And they haven't said what they would do if we did do it. They just said it was unacceptable. And I honestly believe that the leader of China is probably leaning towards the United States being the bad guy in this situation and going in and taking him out in a military action. And I don't think there's any other. I don't think, because of his instability, I really don't think America has any other choice other than take him. The second he gets intercontinental ballistic missile capability, it's going to be totally catastrophic for the world, because he's not wanting to use it for defensive purposes. He's wanting to use it to hold the world hostage. And he wants to be aggressive with nuclear capabilities. He's not, like the United States, Russia, other countries that have nuclear capability basically are using it as a deterrent against other countries from using the bomb. And I don't.
And Dan, as I'm sure you recall just a few days ago, he even said he'd like to have preemptive strike capabilities against American cities, and he named several of them off: New York and Chicago, etc. And one of our own generals, was on TV saying very emphatically, look, it's one thing to threaten us at this level. It's yet another thing when he ups the ante and threatens us at a greater level.
Yeah, and the thing is, right now, no one really knows. They know that the missile tests have been failing. I think there's been 3 failed tests that we've documented, through our surveillance and that sort of thing. And they do know he has limited nuclear warhead capability. He could easily probably drop something on China or South Korea. He's just not somebody that has. He's not somebody that the world could possibly let have nuclear capability with long striking missiles. He can't be trusted. He can't be negotiated with. He's not right in the mind. He's too young. Like I said earlier, Donald Trump made a statement that it must have been hard for him to take over his father's regime at 27. He's only 33 now. You can't negotiate with a madman. And I don't think he even understands the implications of what he has. I think that's where he's at. I don't think he's intelligent enough to understand what he's threatening the world with. And somebody like that can't be reasoned with, and we just simply have to take him out. And I think the United States, if they go in, they've got to go all in. You know what I mean? They just can't lob a couple mother of all bombs, Moabs, over a couple of strategic places. They've just got to completely burn that country to the ground, and that will ensure stability in the region. There's just we have too many allies in the area, too much at stake for the world, and I think it'll teach some other people, like let's say in Iran, a lesson too, because they need to be taught a lesson. And I think that we can hold him up as a lesson to the rest of the world that might be considering, getting the kind of nuclear capability he has too, as well. I think it has several purposes for the United States to go in military-wise, go all in and go all out and just take him out. They just can't let him have those toys.
Well, do you think, Dan, that most of the European countries understand and will side with us in this particular conflict?
Well, what's interesting about that, Rich, is that Europe is not. I was reading today that Europe is not really in strike. A lot of countries in Europe aren't in striking distance of anything he's capable of putting together. Like the United Kingdom has come out and said, well, the United States are our military allies, but we don't have a lot of fear from his even if he were to get long-range intercontinental ballistic missiles, we don't have a lot of fear for that. The rest of Europe doesn't. He's mostly got ranges for South Korea, China, Japan. Japan, of course, is a major ally of the United States. So then we have, I think, a major military base. I'm not sure. I think we still have major military bases over there, presence over there. South Korea, we still have major military bases present there. They think that he could maybe possibly reach Guam, where we have I'm not sure, you might correct me, this was Guam, maybe a United States territory, if I'm not mistaken. So in that light, he could possibly hit the United States with a missile. I don't know though if he could hit New York, but he could probably hit the West Coast or Hawaii or one of the territories out there in the Pacific Ocean. So it's really
that he possibly could strike one of that big battleship that's over there now. Do you think there's any possibility of that? I think that's something that's been discussed, the possibility of him doing that maybe.
Well, he's threatened to do a preemptive strike, like you said, against the battleship that's out there now. We have a nuclear-powered sub out there now. If he does that, of course, if he pulls that trigger, the United States will go all in, and there's no doubt about it. We can't let him blow up a battleship full of United States sailors or soldiers or Marines and get away with it. You just can't do it. And he's got to be taught a lesson. I think he needs to be taken out personally, completely. It's a strange country with a lot of intrigue. Like I said earlier, he had his uncle killed a few months ago. He's had other people. He's had his half brother killed. I mean, he's just not stable individual. He's not right in the mind. He's too young. He feels too powerful with nuclear capability, and he's not using it correctly. He doesn't intend to use it correctly.
Yeah, as I recall that incident at an airport where the victim was poisoned, there were a couple of people, of course, immediately arrested, accused, and then promptly executed, but we knew that he was basically behind it.
Right, and they say he's paranoid, completely paranoid. He doesn't trust anybody or anything around him, and if he feels that way on a personal level, on his own 2 feet as he walks through, his castle or wherever, his domain day to day, how must he feel with the whole world staring down at him, and the might of the United States military. He's staring down the barrel of a huge shotgun right now. And I think he's probably terribly more afraid than anything. And I think there's more rhetoric to try to scare people than anything. And I don't think that Donald Trump, Tillerson, or Mathias are playing games with him right now. And I really would like to see him just taken out. I think the whole world will rest a lot easier if Jong Un is dead within the next few days.
Well, and I think that Tomahawk missile strike that Trump issued against Syria a few weeks ago shows he's perfectly willing to use military force against whatever country poses a threat.
Right, and of course, we dropped the Moab on Afghanistan after that, and I think Donald Trump has come in and I think he's done a great job. This is stuff that should have been done 8 years ago. We had an administration that let the world go to hell in a handbasket while Barack Obama played golf and took vacations, and he let all these horrible enemies get a hold of horrible weapons, and did no negotiation, no diplomacy, nothing to stop it, as far as I know. And now look where we're at in the world stage. It's just a horrible condition.
Well, guess what, Dan? We now have someone in the chat room here, and I like this question. This is, of course, she's been on here before. You probably remember her, Becky Buchko, up there in Johnstown, Pennsylvania. She says, do you think people have a right to be mad about removing illegals who have broken the law? What an interesting question.
Removing, and how's this? Please repeat that.
Okay. She says, do you think people have a right to be mad about removing illegal immigrants who have broken the law?
Not at all. I mean, that's the whole. That's why they're called illegal immigrants, not legal immigrants. When you come into this country undocumented and unwilling to get your citizenship and your paperwork, and you're taking American jobs and American handouts and American welfare, and using this country to your advantage without going through the steps. There's hundreds of millions of people throughout the history of America that have come here from other countries legally, and we have opened our arms completely to these people and welcomed them. And I'll give you a good example. I was sitting in a Social Security office a couple of years ago, and an Oriental gentleman had just gotten his American citizenship and his first Social Security number, and they announced it, and the whole office stood up and applauded. Now, why can't all these other people behave in the manner that this gentleman did? He came in this country, he took the steps to become an American citizen, he got a legitimate Social Security number, and he was welcomed with applause by people of every color, black, white, Hispanic, and a Social Security office here in St. Petersburg, Florida. Well, why can't these people that are pouring over the border, and mostly of them are coming through the Southwest area, why are they different? And that if we shut off, I really think we should shut off funding to the states and cities that are harboring these people. And I think that we should arrest officials, voted in officials like Governor Jerry Brown of California, and some of the mayors and governors of the states that are allowing this to happen in cities.
Those so-called sanctuary cities, yes.
Because what that to me is what Jerry Brown wants to do is aid and abet illegal immigration. When you set up a sanctuary city for illegal activity, then you're aiding and abetting illegal activity, and that is, and according to law, when you aid and abet an armed robbery or a break-in, or when you drive the getaway car for a robbery, you're just as guilty as the person that robbed the gas station or the 7-Eleven or whatever. And to me, if Jerry Brown wants to set up California as a sanctuary state for illegal immigrants, then he needs to go to prison as well. He needs to be handcuffed and dragged out of his office and taken into federal penitentiary. There's no doubt in my mind about that. He's aiding and abetting illegal activity. It's detrimental to the United States. And actually, he's violating the Homeland Security Act. He's circumventing the United States economy, and that is an act of terrorism by the laws that were put forth in the Homeland Security Act. So by aiding and abetting these people that are taking American jobs, taking American welfare, and American money, he's actually aiding and abetting terrorism as defined by the Homeland Security Act. So in my mind, Governor Jerry Brown is a terrorist at this point. And any mayor, governor, council person, or anybody that accepts illegal immigrants into their town or city and defends them and fights against the United States government from extracting them and exporting them is a terrorist in my mind. I mean, they're not just a criminal, they're a terrorist. They're terrorizing the United States and undermining the Constitution, undermining the economy of the United States. And you want to tell me that they can come into flea markets and bust people for selling bootleg shoes and handbags and perfume under the Homeland Security Act and calling them terrorists for circumventing the economy, then Jerry Brown is certainly guilty of the same thing in a much bigger, worse way. I don't think he should ever see light of day if he wants to continue to defy the United States. Just my opinion, but I think it's a correct opinion. If you're going to defy the United States laws and behaviors and economy, then you need to go just along with the criminals that you're aiding and abetting.